Morning. Today I'm giving just a tiny, maybe 10-minute talk on my experience with the menopause. The menopause will come to all women, regardless of whether they identify as a female or not. And just like puberty, menopause is another time of great upheaval and a lot of changes in the body and in the mind. About 3 years ago, when I was 51 years old in England, the menopause hit me like a ton of bricks. I was happily waltzing along in life, and suddenly I had this fatigue, this brain fog, this complete tiredness. Like I would wake up, and I'm normally a morning person, so I'm normally up like with the birds or before the birds, waking up to the first sounds of the first birds, and or in India, the 4 a.m. The call of prayer for Muslims, the muezzin's call. And for me to wake up, literally go to the bathroom, pee or potty, sorry about these childish terms, but it's just what I say. Maybe pee, take a wee, take a dump, I don't know. So I would literally use the toilet and roll straight back into bed. And the mornings have been my most creative time of writing, of cooking, of baking. I bake, sourdough bread and banana loaf, and I would literally get back into bed and then wake up around 10 o'clock, and I would say, where has my day gone? Because that 5 or 6 hours in the morning has been my most productive, most creative time where I get maximum done. So I had no idea, I started on various supplements, and it was just very strange. My body would not respond the way it used to. And this is when, one of my supervisors at the University of Central Lancashire, where I was doing my PhD, she said, "What about the big M?" I said, "What M? M for mania? M for madness?" Because in the past, these have been the triggers, for my so-called bipolar disorder, when I would go through phases of extreme sleepiness or extreme awakeness. And this is why my family wrongly diagnosed me with bipolar disorder, which I don't identify with. So I said to Helen, "What? Mania? Madness? Bipolar?" She said, "Oh no, what about the menopause?" And it took me by surprise because, in polite groups, we don't talk about the menopause. And this is a very British supervisor, and we are sitting there, and I'm like, maybe so. So then I started, setting up appointments with my GP, and they were most unhelpful in the UK to start with. And then I started on Instagram. It was on Instagram actually that I found a lot of menopause groups. There's this Pakistani British doctor, Dr. Shahzadi Harper. There was Dr. Louise Newson. And there were all of these menopause support groups talking about the exact same symptoms and some more. And some women have it early and some women have it late, and some women just waltz through it. I was listening this morning to Harry Belafonte's waltzing Matilda. So this waltz is a word stuck in my mind, and I was hopping and dancing and cleaning my house and putting oil in my hair. Today I had a lot of pain in my head with migraine, and and that was another symptom at that time. I would have these blinding migraines. And so to think of doing the PhD or writing, because for writing you need a very clear head, and obviously with body pain you are unable to, at least I am unable to function, which is why my journey with yoga has been so therapeutic. But in yoga, I never really discussed it with my yoga guru at that point, or read the amazing Yoga for Women book by the Bihar School of Yoga, which would possibly have told me about the change. But then these support groups, they talked about, vaginal dryness, how the skin just sags and goes downwards, and I literally had 20 extra kilos on my body, and I was just putting on weight and going to the next dress size and the next dress size. And it was very hard for me because you have to walk everywhere. I was walking or cycling in England, and I would be huffing and puffing like a like a fat man, and I was fat. I'm not body shaming. I'm talking of my own body and my own experience, and it was very hard. The blood pressure went up because the heart had to pump that much harder, and and then in these menopause groups, they are very pro HRT. So I went to my GP and I said, I want to start the HRT. And they said, well, you don't have too bad symptoms, why don't you take an antidepressant? And this is what another of the conspiracies I want to talk about, because the menopause is not a mental health condition. Yes, it affects your mind. Yes, it affects your brain because it affects everything. Everything is drying up. Brain tissues, skin tissue, particularly, the collagen decreases, and which is why the anti aging cream industry, like primers and oils and anti aging oils and hair color, which is vegan, and hair color, which is this and that. But my body told me to embrace resting more, and I wrote this poem called We Are Becoming Invisible. I'll put a link for it down below perhaps. And it was a commissioned film, a poetry film by the Liverpool Theatre, Thames Theatre. And so I even got money for writing about my experience with the menopause, how women are erased almost at menopause because the procreation, and you can't have babies anymore, and it's almost as if we are written off. The dating scene was very bleak at the time, and it's I've always had heads turning when I walked into a room or I just walked down the streets, and there I was, just this fat, dumpy, middle-aged, grey-haired creature. I still have grey hair, lots of grey. Right now you can't see maybe because it's all blue and pink. I put some vegan hair dye in it, which will wash out in 4 or 5 washes, and I have a lot of hair oil, homemade hair oil made by my friend Hina here in Goa. So and I had the strangest stomach, this sort of pulling in my stomach. And I was like, I've not been working out. I've not been doing abdominal crunches. And that was the but it would be like sharp and pulling. And then this one lady who was a riding instructor and a rider, she spoke about how in the abdomen, in the stomach, especially if you've had surgeries, and I've had 5 major surgeries, 4 C-sections and 1 umbilical hernia from pregnancy complications with my last child. There were sutures inside my stomach. There was muscles which had been cut and stitched. So those were drying up. The tissues were drying up, and that was the body's way of pulling and telling me that something is going on. Most of the time, we are not aware of these things. And most of the time, we'll think something else is wrong. We won't relate it to the menopause. But I'm so thankful for these menopause groups on Instagram, and I compulsively, because whenever something happens to me, I compulsively want to read everything there is to know so that I can address the issues with my own body, so that I can possibly help other people by talking about my experience with the menopause, which is otherwise a taboo subject and no one talks about it. So I started all of these Ayurvedic pills, Shatavari, someone mentioned Nidhi. There's this Ayurveda I used to follow from the US, Indian, but now living in the US. And she spoke of Shatavari as the wonder drug for women. I started all these expensive menopause and women wellness over 50 tablets, and zinc and magnesium, and all kinds of complications with my stomach in particular, diarrhea and things that had not happened to me. And the thing is that we go and pop pills, or we go to the GP, and the GP is not asking us about the menopause because, again, it's a taboo subject. It's easiest for them to give you an antidepressant so that you just stay in this sort of even more brain fog and even more drugged out, so that you just sort of go through the next 3-4 years and possibly get addicted to that amlodipine or whatever it is that they were offering me. Not for blood pressure, because now I'm on amlodipine for blood pressure, SOS, these days I'm taking it because I have these terrible migraine kind of neck pain and shoulder pain, and of course I have shoulder pain also because of my arm which got broken last year. But we need to bring awareness to the menopause, and we need to speak about it. And vaginal dryness, oh my god. And if you go to the GP, or if you just from your earlier life, your your from your teens to your 40s, you're using something called Canesten for thrush. So you think it's just thrush, you think it's a vaginal infection, you think it's thrush, and you will just put Canesten, and Canesten will actually dry out the tissues more. So we need to use oils, other moisturizing supplements. They gave me a very nice vaginal pessary that I had to insert every day. I think it's called estrogel. I can give you these names if you want. And in 2 or 3 days, that vaginal dryness was, getting better and better. And you can just feel the tissues getting plump again. Because the riding lady, I think her name is also Jane something, she said she can't ride a horse, she can't have sex, because the tissues and the vagina just gets an atrophy. Because if the tissues get drier and drier and drier, it literally just eats up the area. So it's like very painful, intercourse is very painful, she cannot ride a bike, she cannot sit cross-legged on the floor. And I thought, for me as a yoga teacher, how terrible that would be. So I adopted all of these, some medical, some yogic, some Ayurvedic drugs and lotions and potions, and made my own, with virgin coconut oil or sesame oil, depending on the weather. And really, the body responds so fast. The body is telling you all it needs to know. You just have to listen. And that's what I had to do. I was forced to do, because the body will say, hey, I'm speaking to you, are you listening? And I'll say, no, it's just a niggle, I'll take a nap. And then the body will speak louder, and the body will speak louder. So it's really important to start becoming in tune with your body, and yoga and meditation have been my key tools of getting in tune with my body. Of course, Kung Fu and Qigong have been my other two saviors. And so I adopted all of these methods, and I can tell you this, that I feel 19. I feel 19 forever, actually. Whenever I'm in a good space, I feel like I'm 19. At that point, when I was 51, 52, I was like, oh, I'm an old lady, and now I should just curl up and die. But you go through the change, and you have to make lifestyle changes, and you have to possibly embrace resting a little bit more, a little afternoon nap, feet massage, simple things. Like, I remember my grandmother would always massage her feet before going to sleep, and I started doing the same. She would use a mixture of glycerine, rose water, and lemon juice, fresh lemon juice. And I remember, if your skin was even a little bit chapped, the lemon would sting a bit. But now I don't know, these days glycerine has a bit of a bad name, but it used to work for her. And for me, what worked was ghee, just normal ghee, cow ghee if possible, or virgin coconut oil. And I started liberally applying it on my feet, on my hands, on my entire vulva region. In fact, today I was massaging my vulva region and my bottom, because it's again so dry in Goa. And again, I use the vaginal pessary. I have very few left, and I don't know when I'm going back to England, but I'm sure they have equivalents here. So this has been my experience with the menopause. And you do have to get into weight training or using yoga and your own body weight. It's really important to do weight-bearing exercises. To eat right is key. In Ayurveda, we say food is the Mahaaushadhi. Mahaaushadhi means the best medicine, the super medicine. So food is medicine. Kindly choose carefully what you eat at the menopause, and really for all women, using things like munakka, which is the larger raisin with the seeds, making a tea of the munakka and just drinking it, fennel, saunf, licorice in moderation, because it can interfere with your blood pressure, pomegranate, hibiscus tea. There's this Irish woman who was making nettle tea, which really helped me to just felt very soothing for my body to have the nettle tea, peppermint tea, mint tea, all of these caffeine free alternatives. Of course, I still have tea and coffee. I am not asking you to ditch it, but instead of 6 cups of coffee or tea, maybe intersperse them with a nettle tea, a peppermint tea, a hibiscus tea, a soft tea. Just take a bit of, like 1 teaspoon of fennel, and just put it at the bottom of the teacup, and just put hot water in it. Add honey or jaggery if you like. It's delicious. Same thing with cardamom. Same thing with so many of our Indian spices, which are actually medicines. Not just Indian spices, spices in general. Lavender is amazing. Make sage and lavender tea. It is heavenly. My friend Laura introduced me to it back in Crete. No, in Turkey, sorry. I get my Mediterranean mixed up because the sea is so blue everywhere. I am by the sea. I send you love. I'm off to a listening circle, which is a poor foundation, which I run event in a few minutes. So I think I'm going to wrap it up. Listen to the body. Watch your menopause. Talk about your experiences to other women, to your friends, because everyone says, oh, nothing happened to me. But actually, a lot is happening, and we are so busy with our work, with our children, with our husbands, with our lovers, with our dogs, with our plants, with whatever we choose to be busy with, that we don't listen to the body. So the key is to listen to the body, respect the body knows best. And yeah, that's it. So that's it for me, my little talk on my experience with the menopause, and I send you love. Bye.